How far would you go for an insurance payout? Would you fake your own death? Would you burn down your own house? Would you cut off your own finger? Because these people did all of that and more. Today we're looking at 6 real cases of people who went to absolutely unhinged lengths to commit insurance fraud. Some of them got rich, most of them got caught. And one of them hid inside his own house for 5 years while his wife collected his life insurance, and they only got busted because of a single photo. Stick around for that one. It's a masterclass in how not to be a criminal. Number 6. The doctor who sank his own yacht. In 2016, a Florida psychiatrist named Darwin Ward took out a $1.6 million insurance policy on his 71-foot yacht. Not long after, the boat mysteriously sank off the coast of Florida. Ward filed a claim and waited for his check. Simple enough, right? Wrong. The insurance company sent divers to inspect the wreck. What they found was not what you'd expect from a sudden accidental sinking. The sea valves on the boat had been deliberately opened. For non-boat people, that's the nautical equivalent of rolling down all your car windows during a hurricane and then telling your insurance company the rain got in. But it gets better. Investigators discovered that Ward had been making internet searches in the weeks before the sinking. Searches like how to scuttle a boat and how to sink a boat for insurance. He literally Googled how to commit the crime, committed the crime exactly as described, and then expected nobody to check his browser history. He was charged with mail fraud and sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. The yacht was worth less than the policy he'd taken out, which is why the insurer got suspicious in the first place. He overinsured a depreciating asset and then sank it. If the fraud had an IQ, it would be room temperature. Number 5. The woman who burned down 4 houses. Between 2010 and 2014, a woman in Washington state named Lisa Xaiver committed arson on 4 separate properties she owned, collecting insurance payouts each time. The first fire, investigators ruled it accidental. The second fire, they raised an eyebrow. The third fire, they started asking questions. The fourth fire, they started asking good questions. The pattern was almost comically obvious. Xaiver would buy a property, insure it for significantly more than it was worth, remove any valuables beforehand, and then the house would mysteriously catch fire. Every single time. She collected over $600,000 across the 4 claims. What finally did her in was the 4th property. Investigators found that the fire had multiple points of origin, which is arson investigator code for someone started this fire in more than one room at the same time, and fires don't do that on their own. They also found accelerant residue, and when they pulled her financial records, they discovered she was deep in debt and had taken out the insurance policies just weeks before each fire. She was convicted on multiple counts of arson and insurance fraud, and sentenced to over 10 years in prison. 4 houses. She burned down 4 houses. Most people can't even get approved for 1 mortgage, and this woman was out here running a controlled demolition business disguised as bad luck. Number 4. The man who cut off his own hand. In 2019, a Slovenian man named Julian Junkai took out massive insurance policies with 5 different companies, totaling nearly 1 million euros in disability payouts. Then, in what he claimed was a terrible accident while using a circular saw, he cut off his left hand just above the wrist. He rushed to the hospital, but critically, he left the severed hand behind. His girlfriend told paramedics she couldn't find it. Here's where it went wrong. The insurance companies got suspicious because of the sheer number of policies he'd taken out in the months before the accident. When investigators looked into it, they discovered that Junke hadn't even tried to bring the hand with him to the hospital for reattachment. If you accidentally cut off your hand, you grab it and bring it with you because doctors can reattach it. You don't leave it at the scene like a piece of evidence you're trying to destroy. His girlfriend later cracked under questioning and admitted they had intentionally left the hand behind to make reattachment impossible, which would guarantee the maximum disability payout. the hand was eventually found by police and surgeons were able to reattach it. So he went through the pain of cutting off his own hand with a circular saw, the trauma of the hospital visit, and the humiliation of the investigation, and he ended up right back where he started, with the same hand and a prison sentence. Both he and his girlfriend were convicted and sentenced to prison for attempted fraud. Sometimes the punishment is just getting exactly what you deserve. This is the one I promised you. In March 2002, a British man named John Darwin paddled his canoe into the North Sea off the coast of Seaton Carew, England, and never came back. A massive search operation was launched. His canoe was found smashed. His paddle was recovered. No body. He was declared dead. His wife Anne collected nearly £250,000 in life insurance and paid off their massive mortgage debts. His 2 sons grieved their father. The community mourned. There was just one small problem. John Darwin wasn't dead. He was living in the house next door. Literally. The Darwins owned 2 adjacent properties, and John had been secretly living in one of them while Anne played the grieving widow in the other. He would sneak between the houses through a hidden passageway. For 5 years he lived as a ghost. No ID, no bank account, no public existence. Anne would bring him food, and he spent his days reading and using the internet under a fake identity. They even traveled together to Panama to scope out real estate for their new life abroad. And that's where they made the fatal mistake. While in Panama, they posed for a photo together at a real estate office. Just one photo, a casual snapshot with a real estate agent. Years later, when John dramatically reappeared at a London police station in December 2007 claiming he had amnesia and couldn't remember the last 5 years of his life, the police were initially sympathetic. Then, someone found the Panama photo online. There they were, John and Anne Darwin smiling together in Panama, the man who was supposed to be dead standing next to the woman who had collected his life insurance. Both were arrested, both were convicted of fraud, both were sentenced to more than 6 years in prison. Their 2 sons, who had genuinely believed their father was dead for 5 years and had grieved him, publicly disowned both parents, all because of one photo. Number 2. The Arsonist who became a best-selling author. Philip Cesarego was a British man with a talent for reinvention and absolutely no respect for the truth. In the 1990s, after failing to pass SAS selection, he decided to fake his own death in a supposed climbing accident in the French Alps. He took out life insurance policies, staged the disappearance, and let his family collect. Then he reinvented himself as Tom Carew, a supposed former SAS operative who had fought alongside the Mujahideen in Afghanistan during the Soviet invasion. Under this fake identity, he wrote a book called Jihad, The Secret War in Afghanistan. The book became a massive bestseller. He appeared on television. He gave interviews about his supposed wartime heroics. He was living his absolute best fraudulent life. The problem was, actual SAS veterans started reading the book and noticed it was full of inaccuracies and fabrications. A BBC Newsnight investigation in 2001 confronted him live on air, and the whole facade crumbled. It was revealed that he was actually Philip Cesarego, a man who had been declared dead years earlier, had never served in the SAS, and had committed insurance fraud by faking his own death. He fled to Belgium, where he lived under yet another false identity until he was found dead in his apartment in Antwerp in 2008. The cause of death was never conclusively determined. He went from faking his death for insurance money to becoming a famous author under a stolen identity, to getting exposed on national television, to actually dying alone in a foreign country under a fake name. The irony is almost poetic. He spent his whole life pretending to be someone else, and when he finally died for real, nobody knew who he actually was. Number 1. The Ring of Doctors Who staged 250 car accidents. This one isn't just one person going to extreme lengths. It's an entire criminal enterprise. Between 2007 and 2013, a network of doctors, lawyers, and professional patients in New York City orchestrated one of the largest insurance fraud rings in American history. The operation was run by a group of medical clinics in Brooklyn and Queens that worked with recruiters called runners. The runners would recruit people, mostly from low-income neighborhoods, to stage fake car accidents. Here's how it worked. The runners would organize deliberate car crashes, usually a car full of participants, rear-ending another car full of participants at low speed. Everyone in both cars would then go to the clinics complaining of neck and back injuries. The doctors would perform unnecessary MRIs, prescribe treatments nobody needed, and generate mountains of fraudulent medical bills. The lawyers would file personal injury claims against the car insurance companies. Everyone got a cut. The patients got paid for their injuries. The doctors billed insurance for treatments. The lawyers collected fees. The runners got a recruitment commission. At its peak, the ring involved over 250 staged accidents, more than 400 participants, and generated over $279 million in fraudulent insurance claims. $279 million. It took a massive multi-agency investigation involving the FBI, the NYPD, and the National Insurance Crime Bureau to bring it down. In 2013, 36 people were indicted, including doctors, lawyers, clinic owners, and runners. The lead organizer, a man named Michael Olajibi, was sentenced to more than 10 years in prison. What makes this case truly insane isn't just the scale, it's how systematic it was. They had recruiters with quotas, they had designated crash sites, they had clinic schedules optimized for processing fake patients. They were running insurance fraud like a Fortune 500 company, complete with supply chain management and performance metrics. The only thing they were missing was a mission statement and an HR department. Though honestly, with 400 employees, they probably needed one. And there you have it. 6 cases of people who decided that honestly earning money was overrated and chose instead to burn down houses, sink yachts, cut off body parts, fake their own deaths, and run entire criminal corporations, all for an insurance payout. The insurance industry loses an estimated $80 billion a year to fraud in the United States alone. And after hearing these stories, honestly, the only surprising thing is that the number isn't higher. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe because we've got a lot more stories where these came from. Drop a comment and let us know which case blew your mind the most. I already know half of you are Googling the Panama photo right now. I don't blame you. See you in the next one.